Hey everyone, Eran Stern here with a very exciting tutorial. Once again we'll touch on the subject of morphing images with After Effects. But this time I'll show you a different technique which I'm sure you like. Different from what, I hear you asking? Well, different from the one I showed you a few months ago using the Time Remap tool. If you missed it, I invite you to watch it as well. Although it's not a necessary knowledge for this episode, it is a very cool method. But this time it will be even better and hopefully more artistic as well. So here's the story. A few weeks ago I was asked to create a popping animation which uses contour lines that quickly animate from one shape to another. You've probably seen this a million times in MTV promos or such. Since I can't demonstrate using the same footage or design, I figured I'd build another promo using the same technique but with my own images. It will be something of a biblical zoo or, you see, something with animals. Anyway, I asked my talented brother Yuval to sketch some animals for me, so before we even dive into the tutorial itself, I just want to share with you what he did for me. I just think he has a magic hand. Being able to pull this drawing so quickly within minutes always makes me envy. Just see those facial expressions for some of the animals. Wonderful and funny as well, don't you agree? Thanks so much, bro. Okay, so obviously we won't use all the animals here, just take a few of them and drag them over to Photoshop first for some prep work. What I recommend here inside Photoshop is just to scale and align these characters so they all sit on the same plane and their limbs will be more or less on the same location. It will make the morph effect looks much more fluid and can yield a very better outcome. Once you're done, just save this as a layered Photoshop document. Size and resolutions are not important as we only use these sketches as a guidelines inside After Effects. Now switch to After Effects and import the document. Upon import, choose to import it as a composition and press OK. Now open the animal's composition and let's quickly set a duration for each layer. Go to 10 frames on the timeline, select all layers and trim them to this point using Alt plus close square bracket key. Next, deselect all the layers and reselect them from bottom to top. Then right-click and choose Keyframe Assistant, Sequence Layers. Make sure Overlap is not selected and choose OK. This will sequence the layers according to the order we select them, which was from bottom to top, right? Now you can scrub the timeline or create RAM preview just to verify that we see each animal for 10 frames. Wonderful. Now take this comp and drag it to the Make New Comp icon. Press Ctrl or Command K and rename it Paint Strokes. We'll use this comp as a guide layer on which our paint strokes will draw and morph from one animal to another. The paint system in After Effects only works when you are inside the layer view. So right-click on layer 1, which is the comp, and then choose Open Layer. Now select the brush from the tools, and before I draw anything on the screen, let's just make sure we have the correct settings applied. On the brushes panel, let's choose the 5 pixel brush preset and change its diameter to 4 pixels. On the paint panel, let's verify that both opacity and flow are set to 100%. The mode should be normal. Channels should read RGBA, meaning that we are painting on all the channels including the alpha channel. And the duration should be set to constant, meaning that our paint strokes will be visible until the end of the comp. We can change most of these settings later, but this is a good starting point for what we need. Now for the artistic part. What we need to do here is simply trace the contour of each animal, but we should do it in a specific manner. For the first animal here, Mr. Horse, I want to draw a continuous line around his outer body. Now don't rush yourself, be patient with it and slowly but surely start to trace the shape until you reach your starting point. For those of you who have the luxury of pen and tablet, this will be an easier task, but it's also quite manageable with a simple mouse. Also, don't worry if you need to go back and forth, meaning to draw in one direction and then repeat it in order to continue, like in areas around the legs for example. Just make sure to keep it as one continuous path. Most importantly, you don't need to trace it accurately. First of all, you're not Yuval, so I wouldn't expect you to be so tidy and precise. But second and more seriously, we are not looking for the exact pen direction here. On the contrary, we need to be loose and free. Later on, I'll also add few filters which will make it even look sketchier, like a dancing scribble line. But for now, let's keep our tracing mission going. Once you raise your mouse and the first brush is in place, select the layer and press UU in sequence. This will show you what you just modified. As you can see, under Effect we have the Paint filter, and under it we have our first brush in place. Now we are ready to draw the other ones. So repeat the same stages until you trace the rest of this image. Try to keep it as minimal as possible. I would recommend not to draw more than 6 brushes or so to define your artwork. The more you have, the harder you'll need to work on them later. So keep that in mind while adding more path. I will now trace the hair and the eyes and the nose, and should end up with these 6 brushes you see in the timeline. Now for the tricky part. Select all the brushes and drill them down to see the word path. Make sure you are at the first frame of the timeline and set a keyframe for it there. Since all the brushes are selected, After Effects will place keyframes for all of them at once. Next, move to 11 frames on the timeline where we can see the second animal. Mr. Camel, of course. Hello there. Okay, now deselect all the brushes by hitting F2. Then select the layer again and press U just to show the keyframes in place. Now select only brush 1 and trace the outer shape of the camel. If you find it difficult to see, you can turn off the eyeball for the rest of the brushes before you start your painting. Try to begin each shape from the same place the previous one. If you look closely, you can see a tiny cross that represents the start point of each path. Once again, take your time and slowly trace the lines of your artwork. No need to be pixel perfect here, but not too wild as well. If you missed something, just undo and start over from the beginning. You see, this is like a game, but instead of your favorite console, we are playing now with After Effects. Fun, isn't it? I'll remind you again that it is very important to deselect everything after each stroke and only then select the next brush in line. Make sure to highlight the word path, turn the eyeball switch accordingly, and draw over it again. If you can't spot any point or lines that will match the previous shape on this one, just feel free to add something to the art, like some stripes or bump on your object. Again, be creative, this is your time to shine. When you're done here, deselect and then select the next path and keep tracing the lines to their new location. Make sure to keep the relationship and not to add more brushes along the way, otherwise this trick won't work well. Now let's watch the first animation between the horse and the camel. In order to view it without the guide layer below, move to the Effect Control panel and under Paint, tick the Paint on Transparent option. This will hide the layer below, leaving us only with the paint strokes themselves. Press 0 on the numlock to create a RAM preview. See how cool it looks? I told you. We made the paint stroke elegantly morph from one shape to the other by keeping a constant amount of brushes and drew each one on its new location. Then After Effects did all the hard work for us. Thank you very much for that. Now what's left here is to repeat the same process for the rest of the animals, limiting ourselves to only 6 brushes each time. Now 6 is not a magic number at all. This is what I found suited for this case only. If your illustrations are more complex or less, feel free to describe them using any number of brushes and maybe also animate other settings for each one. It's completely up to you. Just remember to work in an organized fashion so you'll know exactly what you're affecting and you can predict the result. We'll now move forward in time to the point where I already traced the rest of my animals according to my guide layer below. This is how my comp looks now. When I play it back, we see the morph effect, but it all happens very quickly. So we need to add a little pause between each change. For that, make sure you see all the keyframes and marquee around them. Then select one of the last ones and hold down Alt and just stretch them until the 8 seconds mark on the timeline. While those keyframes are still selected, copy all of them to memory. Then move to 1 second in the timeline and paste. What we did now is duplicated the keyframes with the animal shapes value before the morph is taking place. By doing so, we effectively created a slight freeze between each change. Let's create another run preview to check it now. Great, but not perfect in terms of design. Let me share with you a few more ideas which will help you to upbeat this even more. I'd like to give the animal more natural look, something which will make these lines move a little bit in place in a scrubbly way. For that, let's create an adjustment layer. Then go to Effect, Stylize and add the Roughen Edges effect. This filter is based on the same engine as the fractal noise effect, but works great with an alpha channel source like we have here. I'll change few of the settings to give it a better look and animation. First I'll set the border here to 3 and then set a quick expression for the scale value by holding down Alt or Option and click on the stopwatch. In the expression field type random open parentheses 25, 100 close parentheses. This will generate a random number between 25 and 100 on each frame, which will give us the hectic movement we need here. To push this even more, let's also set a quick expression for the offset turbulence value. Let's write down wiggle open parentheses 5, 250 close parentheses. So 250 pixels in every direction 5 times a second. I'll create another run preview to check this in full motion. Perfect, this is looking much more natural as I would expect from a scribbly line like this. We'll finalize it by making it look like it is imprinted on a stone. Whoa! Okay, return to the project panel, open the comp name Some Dirt, which contains 2 layers of an outside garden and a stone. Let's drag our paint strokes comp into this comp. Let's move it on top of the stone image, rotate it in place to correct the angle, and scale it also to fit. Next, let's add 2 effects. Go to Effect, Generate, Fill, and then go to Effect, Distort and add the Displacement Map effect. Now, let's work on this effect. Choose a white color for the fill effect, and then move down to the Displacement Map and define the Displacement Map layer as the stone. Lastly, go back to the timeline, select the paint stroke layer, and then go under Layer, Layer Style, and add the Bevel and Emboss effect. Change the style here to Emboss, change the direction to down, And let's also lower the size to say 4. Excellent! Now it really looks like part of this composition, like it's imprinted on this stone. You can also parent this comp to the stone layer and then create some slow rotation animation for it. From this point onward, you can add your titles, maybe some falling animation of the stone with some dust, add few effects and supporting sounds, and in no time you can come up with something that might look like this. Well, this is it for this time. I hope you find this technique useful for your own project as well. Before we say goodbye, I just want to ask you if you are ready for more cool stuff. If the answer is yes, I think I've got something just for you. I'm happy to announce my new training DVD, a new solid collection of all my After Effects tutorials with all the project files and a lot of bonus stuff never been seen before. At the time of this recording, it's not shipping yet, but the release date is very close. Be sure to watch the cow site for more details on that soon. I'll sign off here with a short teaser for this exciting new product. So until next time we'll meet, this is Eran Stern for CreativeCow.net saying goodbye.
A new solid collection of After Effects tutorials, more than 7 hours, 2-hour bonus of lessons never seen before, hosted by Eran Stern, available soon.